Hey, I'm Nelson Ford from the Gunsmith in Phoenix, Arizona, and we've been covering the big Smiths in the last couple of videos, and I just thought we've got to cover the big Colts, the new services and the shooting masters. Uh, they were sort of a direct uh, result of the Moro Wars in the Philippines, where the 38 Special, actually it wasn't 38 Special, then it was 38 Colt, was making those guys look bulletproof because they weren't dropping. They were on, I think they were on drugs. I think that they were hyped up and the guns weren't working against them. And so a lot of combat situations hand to hand occurred where it may not normally have had to occur. At any rate, in 1909, Colt answered with this large new service here in 45 Colt. These guns were at the right time for a very short time. The 45 Colt was adopted originally by the U.S. military in the 1873. This is an artillery. 45 Colt single action. And in 1870, I think 1875, they actually adopted it, and they bought tens of thousands of them. But to upgrade, they were going to a double action, and Colt was going to supply them with the new service. And in 1909, they started turning them out for the U.S. military, and I think the Army, Navy, and Marines bought together 20,000 of them. U.S. Marines asked for some changes on them. I think the round butt and some other things, and they got 1,400 of them, but the Army and the Navy got the rest of them. And so a lot of incredible stuff was going on then. You had the Model T came out in 1909. Teddy Roosevelt was in his second term as president. The Wright brothers sold their first military aircraft to the Army Air Corps, and a lot of big things were happening. So this was really going to be the end-all answer for the U.S. Military, and I'm sure there was going to be a counterpart by Smith as well. But a couple of short years later, in 1911, they adopted the 1911 Colt government model. And so my son was telling me about a military aircraft that was made in the late 50s called the B-58. And it came out right at the end where they didn't need it anymore, and they had, surface to air and air to air and all kinds of other things. And so this gun kind of fell in that category. But the one thing that no one really understood, and I think it's lost to history, is they knocked 100 feet per second off it. These normally toss 255 grain bullets out at 850 or 900, and the military delivered ammo was 750. Some people think it was because you could control the gun better. It's a big gun, recoil, etc. But I guess in small hands it might have been a problem, but I think it's just about the right size. So what can I tell you about this gun? This is the same as the 1904 action, the V-spring action. All the parts emulate each other. The rifling's going to the left, the cylinder turns to the right, and the switch goes to the rear. And it's just a typical double action Colt revolver. They made these, you could collect just new services and never have all the permutations. They made 350,000, about the same number as they made first generation single actions. And they had military models, target models, the new service and the shooting master. They actually made 500 magnums on these frames, the shooting master with the adjustable sights. The shooting master, they also turned out 2538 specials, only 145 Colt. My dad had one a long time ago. Had I known how rare it was in that caliber, I would have never let it go. What else can I tell you about it? Oh, they made a couple of very special ones in 22 long rifle. I'm the only guy that gets jazzed about 22 long rifle that I know. But they're just wonderful. I'm trying to think of what else I can tell you about them. You know, when people got them with the king ventilated ribs and the cockeyed hammers, it made them really special. But this one is in 45 Colt, not 45 long Colt. Just 45 Colt on the box. That's a actual period box of ammo. You won't see replicas on my channel. Later they made these things, they morphed them into the 1917, and Smith & Wesson made in 1917, and they continued, you know, through World War II till 1944. So they make great collectibles. They're kind of an expensive gun to buy. They're like an 86 Winchester, although those things have gone off the charts. But it's a great gun. I really wanted to feature it. I feel like I'm lost for words here, but I have covered a lot of things, and it came out in a very wonderful time in our country, and it was ready to service us just dandy-like, but the John Browning 1911 took her place. So she really only had 2 years where she was adopted by the U.S. military. They're marked across the bottom where the lanyard loop is. This one's marked U.S. Army model of 1909, and it's also marked underneath the barrel. Ronaldo Carr stamped it up here when it left the factory, showing that it was inspected and it worked just fine. And then when it got to the military, to the Army, first Colonel and then Major Baker, Major Frank Baker, stamped it when it got to the U.S. military. So this is a fine example. They're hard to come by. A lot of them went into the military. They didn't come back out. You know, they were sent overseas. They didn't make it back. They made 20,000 total. And so hope you find one and hope you get to shoot one. Great gun. Thanks for watching.